Last week, we visited a planet with strange furry monsters. We learned how to use if-then statements to build the framework for an app that would help tourists identify what monsters they were looking at. Biologists on the planet are interested in the distribution of monster species across the planet. Biologists often rely on public participation in scientific research to help collect important information. Known as citizen science, this allows for collaboration between scientists and the general public to better understand scientific phenomena. In our case, we can learn a basic concept in building an app that collects data about monster sightings. Hopefully, this will help the scientists to better understand these cute, only kind of ferocious creatures. Our app relies on the important computer science principle of a loop, which allows users to input data about multiple monsters at once.
Okay, so what is a loop? A loop is something that allows us to repeat a process over and over again. A loop can go on infinitely unless we have something called a termination condition. This condition tells the computer when to stop the loop. So how do we make a loop? Well, let's talk about this in pseudocode first, because when we are going to be using the language Python, which is the language that I'm going to show you the actual coding in, a lot of it you can't see, so you can't see what's going on. So we're going to start first with setting an initial condition. So we choose a variable. Let's say our variable is yay. Let's set our variable so that yay gets 0. That means that yay gets 0 is our initial condition. The next condition is called the termination condition. This tells the computer when to stop. In our case, our termination condition is yay is less than 5. This means that when yay is no longer less than 5, the computer will stop our loop. Finally, we have the post condition. The post condition changes the value of yay every time it goes through the loop. In our case, the post condition will add 1 to yay every time it goes through the loop. This means that eventually yay will reach the value of 5, and our termination condition will take effect, and the computer will stop going through the loop. The main difference between a for loop and a while loop is that for loops have a post condition, which changes the value of the variable every time it goes through the loop, so that it may eventually reach a value at which the termination condition will be triggered, ending the loop. In the case of a while loop, there is no built-in post condition, so unless you write the post condition, the loop will go on forever. Let's look at our while loop. It has a termination condition. If our variable yay reaches the value 5 or larger, then our while loop will stop. However, it doesn't have a post condition, so the value of yay, which we set at 0, will never change from 0 to 5, meaning that our loop will go on forever and ever, unless we add a post condition. Let's add it so we can stop printing bananas. Let's look at the Python syntax for our for loop. You will notice that it says for yay in range 5. Now, what does range 5 mean? Range 5 tells us that we have a list which has 5 elements: 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. The for loop sets yay as each of these numbers once and goes through the loop, starting with 0, 1, 2, 3, and then 4. After that, the for loop stops because it has completed the list. This is a built-in termination condition and a built-in post condition. Both while loops and for loops can be really useful. but it is important to remember with while loops to include a post condition, unless you want to have way too many bananas. So say we have a tourist and they see multiple monsters at once. Well, it is much more convenient for them to continuously be able to input data about the monsters they see than to have to open and close an app or restart a program. So here we have a while loop. So I set more monsters, our variable, more monsters, that is central to this while loop to yes, so that when the while loop starts, it goes through this. And at the end of the while loop, we have another time to set the variable more monsters. So if the user types yes, then the while loop will repeat and they can enter more data about the monsters. Else, we talked about else statements last week, the app will print, "Thank you for your help, citizen scientist." So you'll notice that up here I have some lists, and these are empty lists. So we have species, date, time, behavior, and where. And every time the user inputs data about the monster they are looking at, it gets added to one of these lists. Now, I'm not showing you how to save these lists for every time the program gets run so that the lists continuous, so at the beginning of the list, you would have multiple species already in the list. However, there are ways to do that, and they involve some data management that we're not going to go into today. So you'll notice that every time after they enter the information, we're able to append this information to the list. So let's run this and I'll show you what I mean. We have an error. And the error is that we forgot an else statement. It should go like this, else, colon, and then we print. Okay, so let's run this. So it starts off by asking me what species of monster I see. I see a George, I guess. I don't remember the species. Okay, I see a George. It is running chaotically. Don't know if that's how you spell that. It's running chaotically. Where is the monster? Gobbly Falls. And the date is 05/06/2021. And the time is 7 p.m. There are more monsters around? Yeah, there actually are. Let's see. We also see a willow monster. I don't believe we've shown you willow monsters before. It is crying because it is sad. The monster is also at Gobbly Falls, right? And I'm going to just enter the date again. And this allows the user to continuously enter information about the monster sightings they see, because apparently Gobbly Falls is a pretty monster-heavy area. Let's type no so I can show you what happens when I say no. So here we have our else statement, and it printed, "Thank you for your help, citizen scientist." Okay, so that's really cool. So we added these things, we added our information to our lists. So let's make a new box of code. I want to print what's in my list. So I'm going to print species, the list, so we can see what species we have. George and willow, those are the species. And so you can see that it got saved to the list because it was appended there. And we were able to go and enter all of that information continuously until I was done entering information because of my while loop.
Loops are useful because they allow us to execute a list of commands multiple times according to a set of given rules. For instance, if a citizen scientist is in a high monster traffic area, using a loop instead of forcing them to navigate through the app's menu will ensure that we get the most of the data with the least difficulty. This can be applicable to do things other than add monster sightings to a database of existing monsters. For example, citizen science has also been used annually for the Christmas bird count, which is an annual census of birds conducted by volunteer birders around the U.S. Developing apps for citizen science allows us to turn any smartphone user into a scientist.